Bill, we're going to talk about a lot of different things here. You and I have kind of been behind the scenes. We got a lot of fans. Everybody say hello to the Facebook world that we got out here. We're going to be here with you 15, 20 minutes, Bill, so I want some good answers to these questions. We're going to have a lot of fun. This guy, if you think he's funny on camera, if you think his bloopers are funny, hang out with him for a little bit. And everybody always asks me, what is the magic of Bill Dance? You go watch this weigh in and all these tournaments. His autograph line will be wrapped around the building 10 times longer than everybody else. I'm going to tell you what the magic is, Bill. You have the ability to make everybody in the building feel like they're the most important person in there. And that's a testament you just can't do, and I think that's really neat. But let's get started talking first about Bassmaster tournaments. You was a 3-time Bassmaster Angler of the Year. How did you transcend from being highly competitive to going in and how you started doing television?
Well, you know, I wouldn't be where I am today had it not been for the tournaments. They kind of really kick-started my career. I started fishing tournaments, and as a result of the tournaments, started out, had like 3 seconds, and then the next year I had 3 wins, like boom, boom, boom.
3 seconds.
Yeah, but I was a bridesmaid, you know, and Ray Scott used to laugh about it. He was always a bridesmaid. And then the following year, I won 3 in a row, and I came home, and I had an offer. Surprisingly, I always dreamed of going to work for a lure company. I always wanted to do that. Either work for it some way. I don't know, either building lures or selling lures or just getting involved with a tackle company. And 1 week after that third win, I believe was at Rayburn in Texas. I had a phone call from Bagley Bait Company in Winter Haven, Florida. They make the balsa baits. I had a phone call from Cream Lure Company in Tyler, Texas, who makes plastic worms. The inventor of the plastic worms, Nick Cream. And I had a phone call from Ken White at Hedden Lure Company in Dewalchick, Michigan. Hedden made all the old famous baits like the Lucky 13 and the Tiny Torpedo and the Chuggers, and it goes on and on and on. And many of those baits are still made today. And I talked to Diane about it. I was so excited. I mean, you could have cracked a walnut between my kneecaps. I was shaking so much. But 50% of the fish I was catching at that time were on plastic worms. And I called the company, Nick Cream. And he and Cosmo Cream invited Diane and I to fly to Shreveport, all expenses paid, and they would pick us up and carry us to Tyler, Texas, the home of Cream Lure Company. And we went there on a Friday morning and spent the night at their home, Friday night, Saturday, and came home Sunday afternoon. And Diane fell in love with Miss Cream. She's just a wonderful, sweet woman. And Nick toured me and told me many things about the company and said, what I'd like to do is offer you a job working with writers, with store buyers, entertaining them, taking them on fishing trips. We'll double your salary. We'll furnish you a company car. And I went, my gosh. And we'd like for you to continue to fish tournaments and do promotional work for us.
You didn't know what to
Well,
think.
I mean, I said, wait a minute. I pinched myself. Is this for real? And I went to work for Nick. I took the job with Nick. And that really opened the door. And I continued to do that. And after a couple of years, I got to thinking, if I could do this for Nick, why couldn't I do it for myself? And I talked to Diane about it at length, and I went and I sat down and I talked to Nick. And Nick said, I had a feeling this day would soon come. And you see that door there? It swings both ways. You go and try it, and if it doesn't work for you, you come back.
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy he was.
Right.
Well, in that time span, I didn't know if I really wanted to do that or not. Nick was fixing to retire, and his son had taken over the company, and we didn't he and haul real well. And so at that time, I went into partnerships with Strike King Lure Company, a good buddy of mine, Charlie Spence. And Charles and I were kick-starting the Strike King Lure Company. So we did that for a period of time. And Charles had his ideas, and I had mine. I was trying to do promotional work in fish tournaments, and Charles had ideas about he wanted to do that, and the company really wasn't going the direction we really wanted it to go. And I said, "Tell you what, Charles, I came into this with basically nothing. You take it and run with it. I'm gonna go in a different direction."
Yeah.
And he said, "Okay."
Strike King did okay, didn't he?
And he did well. He really did. Strike King's a great company, and they do wonderful. And I went to work for Cotton Cordell, Cordell Lure Company over in Hot Springs. And Cotton said, after a period of time, he said, "We need a television show." And I said, "Well, great. I know just the perfect guy for it." And he said, "Who's that?" And I said, "Jerry McInnes." And Jerry, you know, was doing ESPN show and a very popular show. And Jerry and I were rooming together some at the tournaments, and very, very good friends. And I was working a little bit, Jeff. And I'll say this to this day: I wouldn't be doing Bill Dance Outdoors had it not been for Jerry. Jerry helped me tremendously with my career back in those early days.
You know,
But anyway, to make a long story short, we started Bill Dance Outdoors.
I think it's so neat hearing, you know, we were at the Tracker Boat dealer meeting this summer. You and I, we loved meeting the dealers and everything. We kept hearing a word talk about connectivity and being able to relate. And we got these fans behind us here. I want to show these magazines. This right here is Bassmaster Magazine cover 1976.
Oh, that's old.
And I love that. But Bill, how cool is it that you can have a career? Here's a recent one, you know, here in 2009. I say recent, but pretty recent. And who's this guy? You're talking about a good-looking guy now.
Well, that was long before Motor Guide.
Advertising some trolling motors. So, but that connectivity with the media. You even wrote some books early on, didn't you, about catching bass?
We've written 7 books on bass fishing over the years. The first one we did for Cotton, for Cordell, on how to fish his baits and most of his popular baits. And then we did one for bass, There He Is, and it was all about plastic worm fishing. The title of it was There He Is.
There He Is, that's what we all say.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then, excuse me, we wrote, one of the most popular ones was Bass and Objects. We did every object that you could think of, from vegetation to timber to bluffs to
right.
stumps to everything, every object. And we did a book on that, and it was very, very popular.
Yeah,
But we learned over the years, the thing that fishermen wanted was education. And when you could control, when you could control or have, could entertain and educate at the same time, you had the best part of both worlds.
Well, tell me about that. I know that, like, we talked about you winning Bass Angler of the Year. I know how competitive this is and how tough it is to win out here. And you're competing against Roland Martin and Jimmy Houston and Tom Mann.
Who are they?
And Johnny Morris early on. Johnny qualified for class. But all kidding aside, you took that from being able to go to compete to doing now, what, 36 original episodes a year. And how did you gravitate from knowing what the customer wanted to see? Because I want to tell a quick story. Bill and I worked together for ProCraft Boats, which was a line that Tracker Boats had many years ago. We get Bill a little water up here too, right?
That'd
Get
be
a little
great.
water. Hey, we got to have some
I feel
water.
like I swallowed a bug.
Yeah, something's flying around here, like them hydrilla gnats, you know. So anyway,
Thank you.
And Bill and I are flying, and we're up in this plane, and just a little charter plane. You and I are paired together, and Bill's actually got notes that he's got in from his viewers, and answering those questions and really discussing them with me, Tim. Hey, here's a question on barometric pressure. You know, I've noticed bass doing this, and just how serious that you're taking those questions and how you turn that into your viewers. I'm gonna let you get a swig of water there, but I want you to discuss, how did Bill Dance Outdoors become the most popular educational television show in not just freshwater bass fishing, but in all of fishing?
Well, we just started. I realized that there was a lot more to a TV show than just catching fish. Everybody could catch fish, but that fishermen wanted something more than just seeing somebody just sit there and catch fish after fish after fish. Excuse me, it was just boring.
Right.
So we started incorporating an educational aspect, and why we were getting fish in 35 feet of water, why those fish were there, and why they positioned themselves at that particular location at that particular time of year and that particular water clarity. And fishermen would like to know that,
Right.
and at that particular time of the year. And then we talked about why we selected that particular bait and how we rigged that particular bait and how we fished it with that particular presentation and why why presentation is so important. Then we talked about maybe it was a highland lake, a midland lake, a lowland type lake. Then we talked about summer, fall, winter, spring, cold water, hot water, muddy water, clear water. Then we talked about the variations of baits.
Let's see how well he did that. That was pretty good, wasn't it?
No, well, no. I'm just talking about the applications, but we didn't jump the show with a little of this and a little of that and a little of this and a little of that. You would try to watch a little of this and then you jump to this and you jump to that. We devote that whole show to one thing, and it's like a book. It had a beginning, and it followed all the way through to an end. It's like a movie. It starts and it has a whole. It followed it from A to Z, and that's the way we do it with the shows that we've done, and that's been our success.
I remember asking you one time, Bill, how come you've always got one rod on the deck of your boat? You see us out competing in tournaments and there's 8 to 10 rods. And your answer to me was so cool. You said, I want that viewer to know by the end of the show, every application to fishing that crankbait or that plastic worm or whatever it was. And that's exactly what you just said. You know, really focusing on exactly what you want to do and teaching the fan, the viewer, exactly how to use that lure.
Yeah, I want to stay with that one bait. Another reason the editors will kill me. But no, one reason is to stay with that bait and focus on that one bait, exactly how to fish that bait. And then the application, like the other day, I was doing a piece that I had to change and modify it a little bit. I got off of a smooth bottom coming out of vegetation, or coming off of the bank, and I got into vegetation where I was fishing a slip sinker, and I had to go from a heavier slip sinker to a light slip sinker. So, and I talked about why I had to do that, moving into shallow vegetation. It was young vegetation that was starting to grow. And then I got into some little chunk rock, and I kept hanging. So then I moved to a lead head. And I didn't hang near as much with the lead head as I did with the sinker. And then I talked about why I did that. And it showed the difference and made the difference in catching or not catching fish. And I go through those steps. And the length of time that I talk about that, sure, I could catch 2 or 3 fish in that length of time. But I think it's more important to show the viewer why you're doing that. It will help them down the road than actually catching fish in that length of time.
Now, did you guys feel like you were there? I could visually see that grass and that rock that he was talking about. That's why Bill Dance is Bill Dance. That's why it's so good. You know, I want to talk about something else that just probably transcended from having 30 years of footage was Bill Dance bloopers. We all love and laugh and you finding that trolling motor that's just bouncing all over the place and getting into bees and everything else. We all loved it, think it's fun. What was your least favorite blooper because of it really like ruined a $60,000 camera or something that happened that we've seen?
Well, there's been a lot of them. I can think of one of the first ones that when Pete, and you know, those beta cams back then, you're looking at the beta cam and the whole system, you're looking at close to $70,000. And you insure that stuff, but after about 3 times, the insurance company starts looking at you and losing a camera. But the one time that when Timmy ran out on the top of a bluff, a red clay bluff, and was trying to get an angle when I was catching a fish, and the dirt just gave way, and it crumbled, and he fell off a bluff is probably as high as that, and into about 9 feet of water with a camera. That was funny a little bit at the time, Then the time that Pete ran in behind me to get a different angle, and I spun around backwards and hit him and knocked him completely out of the boat.
That's awesome.
That wasn't.
That one wasn't fun.
No, that wasn't too much
that
fun.
That one wasn't
because
good.
that was the second claim that we had to put in on the camera.
Yeah. Hey,
But the insurance company paid it, though.
they did pay that one.
Yeah.
Another thing I think really cool. We were at the Wonders of Wildlife. We talk about, if you have not been to the Wonders of Wildlife Museum, especially if you got kids, it's one of the most. It's not an attraction. It is a. You actually feel like you're in Africa. Then you feel like you're in the Arctic. It's just an amazing deal. But at that deal, we had all of the presidents there. We had George W. Bush and Jimmy Carter. And then we had all of the performers come in. And Luke Bryan sings this song that he writes. And of all the pros there, this is a testament to me to who Bill Dance is. Luke Bryan, biggest star in the industry right now, writes a song and sings it, If I Could Be Bill Dance. And I see you get a little emotional. I seen it. And it just talk to me about that a little bit and what that had to feel like.
Well, Luke's a great guy, and I've known Luke for quite some time. Of course, he's been with Cabela's.
Right.
And, of course,
right.
I've been Bass Pro, and I fished Luke's lake before, and I fished with his writer, Dallas Davidson. Now, Dallas has written 17 number one hits. He's done a lot of stuff with Blake Shelton, done a lot of stuff for a lot of singers in Nashville. But he's written, a lot of Blake stuff, of Luke stuff. And I have done several shows with Dallas. Well, I saw Dallas there, and I was talking to John Anderson backstage, and I came back around, and boop, there's Dallas. And I said, what are you doing here? And he said, I'm here with Luke. And Tracy Bird was there, and of course I'd seen Tracy. And I said, where's Luke? And he said, he's up on the stage. And I said, well, I'll be doggone. And so he was fixing to perform, and a bunch of buddies up there, and I finally looked and I said, he said, don't leave. He wrote a song about you. And I said, he wrote a song about me? He said, yeah. He said, just sit here a minute. And the next song, 2 songs from now, he's going to sing it. And then he got up and he told a story about fishing his lake, and Dallas and I coming up there and fishing the lake. And he wanted to fish with me, but he couldn't because his connection with Cabela's and mine with Bass Pro. But we're supposed to do a show this year. So. Yeah. But anyway,
I love that. And
he sang that show, and then that's when I went up on stage with him and clowned a little bit. But it was pretty special. And he's supposed to release that thing pretty soon, he said.
What was cool about that? Him and Easton Corbin and Dierks Bentley, they're just all up there jamming, and everybody's having a big time. But when Luke sang that song, it was you could sense the appreciation he had for
very much so.
And that's what got to you. I just thought it was I thought that was a cool moment. I thought it was
it really
awesome.
was cool.
Yeah.
I had no idea he was going to do it. And then when Dallas said Luke's had wrote, several of us were on the bus together one night, and then we got back, all of us got together.
Yeah.
And wrote that song.
That's
but
cool.
It was pretty neat.
Just a few things finishing up. We're going to have, guys, I think tomorrow, you and Jimmy and Roland up here at the same time. We're going to talk. Yeah, we're going to talk about the.
You won't get a word in with Jimmy up here.
With Jimmy, hey, we're going to have fun. I've got something planned for you guys. I'm going to get you good. You guys better tune in tomorrow. I ain't about to give you a hint on what it is either. And also this weekend, we're going to give away the 40th anniversary Bass Tracker boat. We went to the unveiling on that. Now, you guys put a skit together. We're going to watch tomorrow and have some fun with, I believe you might have had a little heart issue, Bill, or something going on with that. Having fun, but we're going to have fun with that also. Going to be a really cool deal. The transcending of tracker boats real quick. I want you to touch on that, and then I want you to talk about 39 episodes a year. How in the world do you do that?
How in the world can I do what?
39 episodes a year filming, because you're doing 26 freshwater and 13 saltwater shows.
Well, we do, as a result of working with real good people, and I've been blessed that we do 26 original saltwater shows, and we do 13 original. We did 26 original freshwater shows, and 13 original saltwater shows. So 39 a year. We do. That's like I say. Just working with a lot of very talented people at our production company, and they just help get it done.
You know, we were talking earlier about tracker boats, and that was the lead-in question. I know you worked with Johnny Moritz for 20 years now. You guys have a relationship that's beyond fishing. The grouper that are actually in the Wonders of Wildlife Museum, I know you and Johnny went out and caught. But sometimes it gets funny. Sometimes it gets a little fun. Tell me about the little mouth-to-mouth resuscitation you got with when they announced the price of the new Heritage boat. Tell that story a little bit.
Okay, going down.
And we may have some footage. I don't know. We may look at something here in just a minute.
I don't know. We, you know, the FWC, the Florida Wildlife Commission, doesn't allow you to take grouper. And Nick Wiley, the director of the FWC, allowed us to catch four. So we went down to Stuart, Florida, and went out of the inlet there, just a short distance, and pulled up on a wreck, and we caught four from, I think the smallest was around 125, and the biggest was 400. So we took those four fish to Marathon, and we had big aerated trucks, tanks, and we hung probably 8 or 10 to get one, and we could see them. We could see them down 30 feet of water. That's how deep they were.
Right.
But you'd hang one with 45 pounds of drag, and you'd try to pull them off the wreck, and they just fight you right back and break you off. We had 400-pound mono with 200-pound braid, and they just pow. And we try to ease away. We had 4 350 Verados and just barely idling away. And then when we'd get hooked up, we'd start trying to pull them off the wreck. Yeah. And they'd still just strip you back and just bust you off. But we were fortunate enough to get 4 of them. And Johnny's biologists, the fishery people, they're the best in the West. They're just best in the world in handling those fish. We fought them up, put them on a sister boat in a 900-gallon tank, took them in, put them in a big transport truck with aeration, took them down to Marathon, and they kept them there for 3 weeks in quarantine, and then hauled them back to Springfield, kept them in quarantine, watched them, observed them, and then put them in these big aquariums. And I was up there not long ago, and they just swim by, and you just look at them, and they. Yeah. What it does, it affords America the opportunity to look at something and get up close and personal with a fish that they perhaps never get the chance to see.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing and beautiful. And you guys out here watching the show, you'll see on the board here some footage from Wonders of Wildlife, and you'll see those grouper that we're talking about. It's a really cool deal. Bill, when we're going to show this footage tomorrow when we get you and Jimmy back in here of the scene that I think it was incredible. I think it had over 700,000 views in just like 4 days on Facebook. You guys are hilarious, a big hit. I know we had TJ Lair in the video. A lot of people that it's just family with us here at Bass Pro Shops. So I watched it, shared it, commented. It was some of the funniest stuff I ever seen. How do you come about that? Is that just something that just flows natural to you? Because you know, you sit here and you talk to it, and then you watch you do a set like that, and it's like you rehearsed it for 3 hours, but it just flows.
I just been myself, I guess. I don't know. I'm just me.
just naturally funny, I guess. And I absolutely love it. Good stuff.
Well, I appreciate you. I really do.
Hey, y'all, everybody give Bill Dance a big hand here.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Hey, listen, one of the absolute legends in the sport. Absolutely love you, brother. One of my favorite people.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Guys, we're going to be back here live all day. Check us out on Facebook. The big deal tomorrow, I'm going to have all 3 of them on set, so it's going to be fun. You guys stay tuned. Thank y'all.